Live from our hurricane headquarters with real-time analysis from some of the nation's top meteorologists, this is Tracking the Tropics, powered by Bose Electric.
An urgent advisory for Florida residents in Pasco County. An alarming rise in floodwaters in the aftermath of Hurricane Milton is threatening a growing number of communities near rivers and lakes. This is a developing story to the north of Tampa on Florida's Gulf Coast. We're here in the Stream Center to break it down with meteorologist Rebecca Barry. And joining us from the Anclote River nearby, the Anclote River, Brianda Villegas of WFLA News Channel 8. Rebecca, before we go to Brianda, and we are now cutting in on broadcasts on WFLA News Channel 8. Again, if you missed the opening, a dangerous rise in post-storm flooding has occurred in Pasco County in low-lying areas near rivers and lakes. We're going to go to Brianda Villegas, who's there in Pasco County in just a moment. But first, Rebecca Barry, what is exactly happening here? Milton has left, but still a danger for folks in Pasco.
Absolutely. So river flooding is the secondary flooding that we see, and it's slower because it's all of that torrential rainfall that initially flooded a lot of Pasco County, a lot of Pinellas County, a lot of Hillsborough County. Well, that water all has to drain somewhere, and it eventually ends up in our rivers. And unfortunately, we are seeing some very severe flooding in two Pasco County rivers. So I'm briefly going to take you through these graphics, and I know that they're kind of hard to see, but it does give us just a kind of a snapshot of where each river is at this particular sensor. And so this is the Anclote River near Elfers. It is cresting right now at 26 feet. For a record, 27 feet, 27.7 feet is the highest it's ever been. And so it will begin to ever so slowly recede, but we're seeing terrible flooding at the Anclote River near Elfers. Moving on to the Hillsborough River near Zephyr Hills, it looks like this has already crested, but it's not gone down very much, and it will start to slowly recede as well. And so those are the two that's the highest that we're going to see. Unfortunately, the Hillsborough River at Morris Bridge, a little further downriver, it's still heading up. The observation there is in the blue line, and then it's going to go incrementally up by about another foot in some cases before leveling off and then slowly starting to recede. Next, we're checking on the Withlacoochee at Croom, and this one is still headed up. It is not anywhere near its peak, and it will enter major flood stage, but it is going to stay shy of those record rivers. So those are the rivers that we're watching most right now. Unfortunately, we are seeing the flooding there, especially along the Hillsborough River, especially along the Anclote River. So that's just kind of the brief overview.
All right, so we did get an alert from Pasco County officials. I'm going to read this in full, okay? Pasco County is experiencing historical flooding in low-lying areas and in several neighborhoods around the county near our rivers and lakes. Water is quickly rising in these areas, and we encourage you to leave and get to higher ground now. Now being in all capital letters. If you must travel around the county, be aware that dozens of flooded roads are closed, and you will have to navigate safely around them. Do not drive through flood waters. The following locations have been recommended to evacuate: Elfers, Cypress Creek, at Worthington Gardens, Thousand Oaks, and everyone in Pasco County in low-lying areas or areas that are prone to flooding. Let's bring in our own Brianda Villegas, who's joining us from near the Anclote River. Brianda, this is an urgent advisory being put out by Pasco officials. What's the latest that you're seeing out there?
It is super urgent. So we are in the Elfers community that Rebecca was talking about, and I just want to I want to show you the type of situation that we're dealing with, and look how high it's risen. I mean, we have a truck over in that area, motorcycle wheels halfway covered underwater. So officials want people to get out if they are in areas like this. Right now, they are currently in this community taking people out. They have rescued about 200 people. That number is expected to rise because there are other parts of Pasco County that look just like this, and they're rising. So I want to go over here and show you this fence. It looks like this part of the river, this part of Pasco County, has receded a little bit, but of course, if you are in Zephyr Hills, St. Anne community, also the Dade City area as well, if you are near a river body of water like this, you just need to get out because officials don't know how much it's going to rise. We have, just so many crews out here, crews from Texas, from Louisiana, and we actually have some residents here that live in the area. So your name is John, right? Yes. Okay, can you tell me a little bit, and this is your son?
Jaden, yes.
Yes, y'all live in the area?
Yes, we live right up the road at Copper Springs, and just seeing the devastation here has reminded us how truly blessed we are just to be alive and healthy. And I want to give a big shout out to all the first responders and everybody, the whole community's coming together in times of need like this. We're very grateful for all of that.
So this is historic flooding. Have you ever seen this area get this bad?
Never. It's definitely awe-inspiring and very heartbreaking to see.
Were you impacted by flooding, or do you know someone that is in a community like this?
We're very fortunate. We haven't been impacted directly, but we're very nearby, so a lot of our friends and families nearby are unfortunately affected by this storm, and our heart goes out to everybody. I know it's tough.
It really is, but thank you so much for giving us a moment to, yes, I'll shake your hand.
Sorry.
No, giving us a kind of view of what residents have seen in the past. So, and again, we definitely want to reiterate, those of you in Pasco County, St. Anne community, Zephyr Hills, Dade City, what Rebecca was talking about is these places are going to rise. You're going to see a whole lot more of this. I mean, even buildings, businesses are being impacted over here, and you can just see that water rose. A woman we talked to earlier said that the water over near that McDonald's over there was just, it was just surrounded. It was swirling around. We keep seeing those drains swirling around, trying to get rid of that water. But what I have noticed is that it looks like the water from the roadways over here is just going deep into there. And over the past few minutes, the past hour really, we've seen someone on a kayak. Pasco County Fire Rescue even has those high water vehicles out here as well. So they are constantly going in there, but they did have to send some crews over to the east part of Pasco County because that is where they're seeing that people need rescuing. So we are definitely going to check in with them and just kind of see what they're seeing over there, find out what they're seeing, just so people know to get out of those places because it's pretty dangerous according to the fire chief. But I'll send it back to you.
Thank you so much. It's Rebecca here, Brianda. And I just wanted your perspective because not only have you been working here for a long time, but you're from the area and we do deal with river flooding, particularly after these rainfall events. How does this compare to things you've seen?
Yes. So, rivers. I live in I grew up in Southwest Florida in the DeSoto County area, but the Peace River there, even during Ian, during Hurricane Charlie, I went through Hurricane Charlie when I was a kid, those rivers rose. And during Hurricane Ian, it's so dangerous to stay in places like this near rivers because that river rises and it's after storms. So that's what I've seen personally in the time that I've lived in Florida, specifically in DeSoto County, Arcadia. First responders have to pull people out of situations like this. So it is, seeing it up close, it really puts into perspective, how dangerous situations like this are. And that's why we want to reiterate to people that do live in areas like this to leave if they can or get to higher ground. In areas over by Hudson, one of our reporters was over there. She said she saw people on their roofs. So this is a life-threatening situation for a lot of people.
I think a lot of people don't understand how fast flooding can be in. It goes from everything just looks normal and then the water just rises so incredibly quickly. I think it catches a lot of people off guard. Is that something you've seen in the field?
Oh, yes. Even residents that just took a walk down here, we spoke to a woman who is just like, wow, we've never seen it look like this. People are, in shock, obviously, because it's something that they've just never seen before. And if you're driving through Pasco County, people have to keep in mind there's going to be a ton of roads that are just going to be completely flooded. So it looks like here, actually law enforcement here in this area near the Elfers community, State Road 54, it's near a Bell's Outlet here. No one from the public's able to come in here. Law enforcement is blocking stuff out. So Joseph, I don't know if you can zoom in over there. Right over in the distance, people, the law enforcement vehicles are blocking off roads just like this. We're seeing this all around Pasco County, and that's so people don't drive through this. I feel like people get very confident that their car's going to be able to get through water, but we've seen, cars halfway submerged, completely submerged because, people aren't heeding these warnings from law enforcement that, hey, if you drive into an area like this, your car may not make it through. So it's not just for people that live in these communities near the river. It's basically for a lot of people, everyone that drives on these roads. They just have to be very careful and, make sure they stay out of areas where law enforcement's saying to stay out of, and, just don't go through water if it's covering a street.
Brianda Villegas reporting for us in Pasco County once again. in the Elfers community. Brianda, be safe, and we will be checking in with you over the course of the afternoon. Let's bring it back in here into the Stream Center. Rebecca, is this a situation that has been caused by Milton exclusively, or is this also going back to Helene from a couple of weeks ago?
Well, it certainly didn't help that we were so saturated from Helene, but all of the floodwaters from Helene had already receded by the time this set in. What we're looking at in particular is from that 10 to 16 inches of rain that we saw fall just to the north of the eye of the path of the storm. We talked about how the flooding to the north of the eye would be 10 to 15 inches of rainfall and freshwater flooding, and to the south of the eye is the 10 to 15 feet of storm surge. And unfortunately, when you initially get that 10 to 15 inches of rain, of course, you see some flooding, but then our drainage systems, the water runs down into the lower lying areas and then starts to drain out through our rivers and bays. And so that's when we see the rivers start to rise. It's a secondary reaction to all of that rainfall.
Again, if you're just joining us, we're about to bring you another live report from the region, but Pasco County experiencing historical flooding per officials in low-lying areas and in several neighborhoods around the county near rivers and lakes, water quickly rising. The words from Pasco County emergency officials are, we encourage you to leave and to get to higher ground now. Do not drive through floodwaters. Again, the following locations have been recommended to evacuate: Elfers, Cypress Creek at Worthington Gardens, Thousand Oaks, and everyone in low-lying areas or areas prone to flooding. I believe now that we have News Channel 8's Jeff Patterson, who is joining us. We're going to be bringing him in here momentarily, and I do now believe that we have Jeff. Let's bring him in. Jeff, where are you joining us from, and what are you seeing out there in light of this urgent advisory that's been issued?
Good afternoon, JB. Well, we're just off of Lithia Pinecrest Road near Rose Street, and behind me, by about a quarter mile, should be the banks of the Alafai River. Unfortunately, right now, as you can see, I'm standing in it. I'm just going to kind of walk back here a little bit so photographer Joey Capistrand perhaps can get some images of the home back here. I just talked to the homeowner. He's been watching for about the last hour or so the water level, trying to see where it is on his home, and he tells me it has not risen. But I've also spoken to our weather team, and they tell me the Alafai is not expected to crest until 8 p.m. tonight. So this neighborhood has flooded many times before. As a matter of fact, in this direction behind me towards the Alafai River, I was here after Hurricane Irma and it flooded, but it was not this severe. I talked to a homeowner here who says this is the highest he's ever seen, and he's lived in this community for many, many years. There is a community back there of strongly independent, fiercely independent people who are very self-reliant upon themselves. But right now, the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office has been going into this neighborhood by boat and other amphibious vehicles to see if anyone needs rescue. Several people are staying in their homes despite the fact that there is water in their homes right now because they have become accustomed to taking care of themselves. So here along the Alafai River, the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office has rescued a number of people out of this neighborhood because we saw, as we went back there on a boat tour a short time ago, that the water was actually above the level of some of the manufactured homes that are back there, and it was just unlivable for the people to stay in there. As a matter of fact, it was dangerous for their lives for them to stay in there. So some of them have been taken out. There's also a group here that is helping to rescue farm animals from back there. As a matter of fact, we saw one large hog, a very large hog, that basically had tread water out to a gas station near here, and they were able to coax the animal into the back of a vehicle so that they could feed it and take care of it, and so it wouldn't be in this water. They've taken out chickens and one donkey that was tied up to a gas station here. So there's a lot of different rescue operations that are kind of going on simultaneously in this area. And again, I know that the people who live along the Alafai River here are accustomed to river flooding. But again, when I was here after Hurricane Irma, the water level did not come up as high as it is. As a matter of fact, if it comes up by about another foot, perhaps 2 feet, it will completely cover Lithia Pinecrest Road and make it impassable. And right now, behind us, it's very difficult for anyone to get in or out of this neighborhood without a boat or some kind of amphibious vehicle. So that's why the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office is on scene. I've spoken to Sheriff Chad Chronister, who was out here himself directing the operations. They have a rather large operation going on right now, and we'll bring you all of the video that we have from that later tonight on News. As bad as I have ever seen it in this neighborhood.
Jeff, we have some audio interference coming in there. We're going to have to, apologies, Jeff. I'm not sure, we'll try it there again. Let's see if we can bring him one more time. And I think actually that might be a little bit better now. Jeff, you're on with Rebecca Barry.
Okay.
Hey, Jeff, I know that you mentioned that it is a flood-prone area, but I just want to re-emphasize how much higher this is than most of these people have ever seen. If you do live in a flood zone, you do kind of expect certain things to happen when you see the weather patterns settling in. You might know that the river is going to rise, but it feels like this is pretty unprecedented based on that 10 to 16 inches of rain we saw in that area.
Absolutely, and Rebecca, as you probably know, there are homes here along the LFI that are set up for this. They're up on stilts, some of them 15 feet or more above. But there's also the people in this community off of Rose Street back here who do not live in those elevated homes. There's manufactured homes, there's single story homes that are right on the ground level. And so when we were going back on the boat tour, we saw that the water was completely inside of those homes right now. There are vehicles that are flooded back there that were not able to get out in time. There's farm equipment and other things back there that people were not able to get out in time. So yes, people along the LFI River are to high water events, but this is unprecedented. The level of rain that we saw in the short amount of time is completely unprecedented. And a number of people who live back here have apps on their phone that they monitor the river stages. And some of them have told me that they were watching that last night and kind of aware that it was coming, but not this fast and not this high.
And that's not the only danger of flooding. Of course, the damage that it does to homes is the worst part. But a lot of times you get displaced insects and displaced wildlife. Have you seen anything so far?
Right, Jeff, I'm sorry. We're going to have to abandon the shot, Jeff. The audio interference is just getting too bad at Jeff Patterson's location. Jeff, we'll be hearing, I'm sure, from you coming up on News Channel 8 in our afternoon cut-ins and in our evening newscast here with meteorologist Rebecca Barry. And Rebecca, as we look here at some of the video, I mean, this is just a small taste of what we're talking about here as far as Pasco residents in low-lying, flood-prone areas being told to get out now.
And it's so fast. Floodwaters rise incredibly fast. Jeff was just talking about how people that are accustomed to the river flooding are watching those river levels on your app. But once the floodwaters start to rise, you have very, very little time to move cars, to move farm equipment, to move to higher ground. And so that's one of the reasons that we've cut into live programming here and we're live streaming as well, is because this is a dangerous situation for those that do not have that second story, that don't have that elevation to go up to.
All right. So, folks, we are currently simulcasting to multiple places, including on WFLA News Channel 8, but we're also live streaming right now across all of our digital platforms, WFLA.com, our app, trackingthetropics.tv, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, so that we can be as accessible as possible for our audience. For our television audience on WFLA News Channel 8, we'll be returning you to your regularly scheduled programming in just one moment. But first, a reminder with this advisory and the developments that are to occur in the coming hours. The latest information can be found here on air, but also online on WFLA.com. We'll continue the conversation and continue to get out the word on social media and on our digital platforms, myself and Rebecca Barry. But for those watching right now on WFLA News Channel 8, we will be returning you to your regularly scheduled programming. Welcome back here, folks, to the live stream. Rebecca Barry here with you, as well as JB Buno. Let's get to, of course, the latest that is coming in. One more time, an urgent advisory being put out to Pasco County residents. The following locations have been recommended to evacuate: Elfers, Cypress Creek at Worthington Gardens, Thousand Oaks, everyone in low-lying areas or areas prone to flooding. This was an urgent advisory, still is an urgent advisory, Rebecca. We had to break in on air and get up on stream as soon as possible because minutes can matter in situations like this.
Absolutely. In flood-prone areas, the floodwaters come very fast. And this is river flooding, so this is the secondary flooding. So Milton brought 3 different types of flooding. The first flooding is that we were most concerned about to the south of the eye, and that's where we saw that 10 to 15 feet of storm surge from Siesta Key southward. So that was the worst. The secondary flooding was pretty fast, and that was from the 10 to 16 inches of rain that fell to the north of the path that you're looking at there on your screen. And so that was unprecedented rain. When we're talking about rainfall flooding, we look at 2 different factors. Of course, the amount of rain matters because the high amount of rain will always flood, but also the time period in which that rain falls. The shorter the time period, the more short-term flooding you will see. And that's what we saw during and just after the storm yesterday. But now we're looking at the third type of flooding, whereas all of that rain that fell has to go somewhere, and it all rushes to the same low-lying areas, and those low-lying areas drain out through our rivers and into the bay. So the rivers might not have flooded initially, but now that all of the floodwaters are draining into the rivers, they are still rising in some cases, and in some cases they have just peaked and will very, very, very slowly recede. So flooding starts fast and ends ever so slowly. It just takes forever for those levels to go down in some cases. The closer you are to the bay, the faster the water will go down. The further you are inland, the slower the water will go down.
What we'd like to do now is open up the interactive portion of our efforts. Of course, Tracking the Tropics live Q&A with meteorologist Rebecca Barry. You can use hashtag #HeyRebecca, hashtag #HeyJB to have your comment featured on screen. We want to really answer as many questions for people about this as possible. But again, the advisory's up on WFLA.com, and we're urging people, once again, if you're in one of those low-lying areas, Elfers, Cypress Creek at Worthington Gardens, Thousand Oaks, you are told the recommendation is to evacuate, but it's pretty urgent. They are saying we encourage you to leave and get to higher ground now. If you must travel around the county, be aware that dozens of flooded roads are closed, and you will have to navigate safely around them. Do not drive through flood waters. All right, so we're going to start to answer your questions with hashtag #HeyJB, hashtag #HeyRebecca. This was not a planned live stream effort, Rebecca. In fact, you were just walking in. I was, I'll show people. I was chomping on an apple, an apple that has since changed colors.
R.I.P. apple.
Lunch.
Yeah.
Food is scarce over here. So apple for lunch. And so, Rebecca, we're kind of adapting here and evolving to this situation in real time, but we'll try our very best to answer questions as much as we can. And we're going to get to Patty first in the comment section. Once I can load her comment, and I believe that I do have it now. So first up is Patty. Let's go to her on YouTube Live. Hashtag #HeyJB, hashtag #HeyRebecca. It's an excellent question. Is this rainwater or salt water?
Yeah,
Rebecca?
this is rainwater. And so this is from that 10 to 16 inches of rain that we saw to the north of the eye. It's drained out. It's starting to slowly drain the flooded areas. But that drainage system is our rivers. And so the rivers are swelling because of all of the drainage of rainwater, which is fresh water, into the rivers.
Okay. Let's see here. Some other questions. Let's get to Facebook Live, too. I'm looking at these like literally as they are coming in right at this second. I'd also like to thank Jeff Patterson and Brianda Villegas for joining, getting up on stream very, very, very quickly and being able to provide that information to our audience. Okay, so, I want to pass this along. This is really important to pass along. Before I get to Courtney's question, Courtney, I see your question with hashtag #HeyJB. District releasing additional water from the Medard Reservoir to protect the reservoir structural integrity. This is also, I believe, a story that we're going to try to get up on WFLA.com. The Southwest Florida Water Management District is releasing additional water from the Medard Reservoir into the Alafaya River to protect the structural integrity of the reservoir. In preparation for potential impacts from Milton, the district released water, and the Medard Reservoir was well below normal operating level. However, the Medard Reservoir received nearly 7 inches of rain in the watershed and in the reservoir, and the reservoir rose to 6.5 feet as a result of Hurricane Milton. They're releasing 600 cubic feet per second. So what's the breakdown here with the Medard Reservoir? Because obviously Milton dropping unprecedented levels of rain on the area has forced these decisions to get made.
Absolutely. And so it's stress upon our watershed system. And the watershed system is basically when water falls on land, where does it go? It goes to the more low-lying areas. Now, we as humans have mitigated this by building dams, building reservoirs, redirecting the watershed. And so, unfortunately, when we get unprecedented rainfall events like that, it stresses those systems out. And so they're trying to relieve that, but it could be exacerbating potential flooding downriver from that area.
Yeah, and this is exactly what we're talking about as far as managing the water. Courtney says, what about the Alafai River Dam? Is it in danger of breaking? Peak is at 9 o'clock. Family member is in waist-deep water. As we understand it, these decisions right now are trying to be made to manage water as much as possible so that we do not have a catastrophe on our hands post-Milton.
Absolutely. And so if she's in waist-deep water now and her area doesn't peak until 9 p.m., if she can get to higher ground, that would be the best option. I don't have any technical knowledge of the dams abilities, and so that's up to the engineers. And so if they are releasing water, it is to help protect that dam and the greater systems that we have to control that water.
Okay, so here's this has made me angry, this next question, okay? And it's nothing against you, Keita, but a sore subject for me, I talk about this a lot, is misinformation. Mm-hmm. It drives me crazy. I understand that that's the nature of the internet, but I believe that there has been a bit of trolling going on in relations to, rumors, speculation of an additional hurricane brewing.
Yes.
The National Hurricane Center is not monitoring anything except the slightest disturbance off the coast of Africa?
Yeah, that's right? The only one they're monitoring now. And what you're seeing is a couple of runs of the GFS is hinting that something may spin up in the Caribbean at the end of next week. But at that point, 90% of the time, the cold fronts have started across the southeast. I mean, it's the week before November, and that usually keeps anything in the south, in the Caribbean. It doesn't let us enter the Gulf. And so, yes, long-term forecast models, which I sometimes call la-la land forecasting, and in the meteorological world, the GFS is the system that most often spins up something 14 days out. So the furthest extent of its forecasting, we call it a GFS-icane because it's a GFS model and it's always trying to make a hurricane. And so, yes, on some model runs, the GFS has spun something up in the Caribbean. But at that point, I'm not worried because we usually have cold fronts coming through at that point, and that would steer anything back out into the Caribbean, keeping it out of the Gulf.
All right. So, no. There is no hurricane.
There's no Nadine right
in the
now.
Gulf.
No.
There's no people have been asking me, where's Nadine? Nadine doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, and could potentially never exist. Or if Nadine does exist, it could end up being that small disturbance off the coastline of Africa.
Be wary of hyper clickbait behaviors. It's frustrating to see people just stir up rumor in the comment section just so that they can cause further chaos on top of the chaos that has already, actually, come to fruition, which of course is Hurricane Milton. So please, everybody, spread good information. There is no Nadine as of today, October 11th, 2024. No tropical storm, no hurricane. The only systems right now that exist are Leslie, well out into the Atlantic. It won't last too much longer. By this weekend, it will be post-tropical, and it is closer to Africa than it is to the continental United States from what I'm looking at here on the map. So everybody, we're as of right now, we're okay. It's about picking up the pieces and recovering as a community here in Florida. Let's get to Stephanie's question. Just a few more before we wrap up this very, very brief, I suppose, live stream in comparison to what we've been doing in recent days. This is going to be a brief live stream. Stephanie, hey, JB and Rebecca, what is the status of Seven Springs off of 54 and Lassen Veterans Village neighborhood? I'm going to try to bring this up on a map, Rebecca. Do you have anything to...
I am kind of mousing around looking at...
I found it. Pasco County. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you a general area. So this is at 54 and Little Road. I'm going to try to give you, east of Elfers, okay?
Okay.
There is a community there called Seven Springs and the Seven Springs Homes, and it is northeast of Trinity, probably just north of Little Road and Mitchell Boulevard in Trinity, Florida.
Okay, the closest river gauge I have to that is Cypress Creeks at State Road 54. It's in Worthington Gardens. So that's the closest I have, and that is currently at 13.55 feet, which is just below the record of 13.8 feet, and it's expected to continue to rise to 15 feet, and it would peak at 2 a.m. on Monday at that 15 feet, which would be a new record and above major flood stage.
All right. We're going to see if there's any other questions and comments coming in. And yeah, we can really quickly one more time for Chastity and others in our comment section. People who are a little bit confused as to what is going on. While Milton is no longer an active threat above the peninsula, Milton's impact is still being felt even after the storm has moved well into the Atlantic Ocean post-tropical, and it's because of a alarming and sudden rise of floodwaters in our area. And here's the latest that we have from Pasco County officials. They are experiencing historic flooding in low-lying areas and in several neighborhoods around the county near lakes and rivers. They say water is quickly rising in these areas, and we encourage you to leave and get to higher ground now. If you must travel around the county, be aware that dozens of flooded roads are closed, and you will have to navigate safely around them. Do not drive through floodwaters. The following locations have been recommended to evacuate: Elfers, Cypress Creek at Worthington Gardens, Thousand Oaks, everyone in low-lying areas or areas that are prone to flooding. There's also information about resources and special needs individuals that are, it's all on WFLA.com, folks. And so we encourage you to go over there. Any final words, Rebecca, before we wrap up the live stream?
I just hope that everyone can get out and get enough of their stuff out in these terrible flooding situations, because flooding happens so quickly and it takes an incredibly long time for it to recede. So our thoughts are with those along the river.
All right. Rebecca, I've just been told that there's a 2 o'clock cut-in on News Channel 8.
Indeed.
All right. So, folks, this has been a brief live stream just to get out an urgent advisory from Pasco County. We'll continue to monitor Hurricane Milton's aftermath and all the impacts that are being felt around the area. Power outages, flooded areas, rescues taking place, and just the general rebuilding of the Gulf Coast side of Florida and the Tampa Bay region. It's all there for you. All the latest headlines, information, and resources on WFLA.com. For meteorologist Rebecca Barry, I'm JB Buno. Additional live streams as needed here on Tracking the Tropics. We'll see you soon.
Find Tracking the Tropics on these platforms. And for storm updates, the latest models, and helpful resources, visit trackingthetropics.tv.